This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 257, baby. Oh yeah. In today's episode we have a new guest, not one of the people that I don't know, instead one of my close friends. Another person has been added to the RnR team, okay? Because I like to keep things fresh on the podcast, to keep it rock and roll, let's say. So when things go stale, I like to freshen them up. A nice word there, stale. When things go stale, we especially use this for food. They are no longer fresh and not nice to eat. You know when you leave bread out for a few days and it goes hard, it goes stale, and I don't want that to happen with the pod, so I've roped in another one of my friends. Some more RnR vocab there. When you rope someone into doing something, you persuade them to do it, and usually they don't want to do it, but you persuade them to. But that wasn't really the case here, as my friend Mental Marky Mark. You will hear the explanation for the name on the podcast, but yes, I didn't need to rope him into it, as he has always dreamed of being on the radio. So we talk about the radio. He may be a bit difficult to understand. I'm not sure. It's not so easy for me sometimes to understand if someone is difficult to understand. But remember, all family members have a transcript on their phone, so just use that if you have difficulty. We also had a technical problem towards the end of the conversation, so unfortunately we get cut off, but the conversation is still more than 20 minutes. Then we continue it in the family area in tomorrow's podcast. One more thing, there is also a moment in today's podcast where we laugh at something may be considered inappropriate, okay? I did consider taking this part out of the podcast, and I'm sure all other podcasts you listen to would have taken this piece out, but I left it in because I want you to listen to real conversations between real friends, and it also explains part of the rock and roll English philosophy, but I explain that during the podcast just after you listen to the thing I'm talking about, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. Here is the podcast. Remember, there's lots of RnR vocab on the website, rockandrollenglish.com/episode 257. I will talk to you all again at the end. Happy listening. Mental Marky Mark, how are you today?
Hello, Martin. I'm very well. A little bit nervous about this whole thing. I've been putting it off for a long time.
Jumping straight in with the RnR vocabulary, putting it off, so I've been delaying it. Well, you should be nervous, okay, because this is going to be bad. Well, it's going to be great for everyone, but maybe not that great for you, okay?
Stitch up, that's what it is.
Oh, some lovely vocabulary there as well. Stitch up, when you kind of manipulate a situation to put someone at a disadvantage, and that is exactly what I have done here. Mental Marky Mark, okay? I've got everything planned. You have no idea what is about to happen, but don't worry, okay? Just relax, So, another friend from school, aren't you, Mental Marky Mark?
Yes, yeah. I'm friends, mutual friends with Corporal Coma and Boom Boom Cannon and Hellraiser, all part of the gang.
Yeah, and you may not know this, but quite a few stories have already been shared about you on this podcast, which maybe we will touch upon later, okay? Because this podcast is all about stories, and believe me, there are lots of stories about Mental Marky Mark, starting with your name, which comes from your email address from about 2000, 2001, no? mentalmarkymark@hotmail.com. Is that still in use, that email address?
I mean, I believe it is still in use, but I wouldn't be able to log into it because I can't remember the password or anything like that. But I'm sure you and some of your listeners also have ridiculous email addresses from that era when email was a new thing.
That is true. In fact, this is how sad and pathetic well, I am and I was, is that I was very jealous of that. I thought, oh, that's such an intelligent, witty email address. I thought I could have been Mental Marty Mart or something like that. But he beat me to it. He got there too quick. So I on the other hand, went for martman69@hotmail.com.
Why 69?
Just love that sexual position, I suppose, don't I?
Yeah, when you're 13 or 14. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly.
Do you know anyone else's from around that era? Was it just me who was ridiculous? Or?
No, we had another friend actually who, I mean, this email address was brilliant, I thought, which was hottermail, like as in male as in man, hottermail@hotmail.com, which... Yeah, I was very much last on the list of witty email addresses. Behind Hotter Mail and Mental Marky Mark came Markman69. But yeah, I'm sure you did the same. Changed the email address when I was looking for a job.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't quite use the Markman69. But again, that might still be in use. I'm not sure. Okay, Mental Marky Mark, since you are one of the real guests now, part of the family, the RnR English team, okay? What we do at the start of the show, do you know what we do?
Just remind the listeners what we do.
Okay, I'll do that. Good answer. We read a review, and I always ask everyone, do you think we have a review? Because we don't always. It's 50-50. What do you think?
I think we do. I think we've got a review this week.
We have got a review because these iTunes reviews are very difficult to find, as I always say. And I have recently found some. This one is actually from the 7th of April, 2018. But still, a 5-star review is a 5-star review. In fact, Mental Marky Mark, if you want to leave a fake review, that's fine. All reviews are welcome as long as they are 5 stars. And it says, the most rock and roll podcast in the world by Wagner VM. And it says, effing amazing podcast. Great for intermediate English learners. Martin and Dan, in that order, s'il vous plaît. I think this is from when it was just me and Dan. So yes, Martin and Dan chat as real friends about daily topics, interesting facts, and sometimes just nonsense. Exactly as we all do in our normal life. And of course, always with rock and roll vocabulary and a pragmatic use of second and third conditionals. Cheers from Brazil and keep on rocking, baby. Oh, yes.
Did you have another email address known as Wagner, which you had an iTunes account with? Because that's a pretty punchy review.
All the reviews, okay, even the fake ones are really good. That one's a real one, though.
Nice.
So, yes. So, thank you very much for that, Wagner VM. And yes, so speaking nonsense, that's what we're going to do today. So, on to the topic of today's show. Okay, we're going to do some of the getting to know you stuff in the family podcast, Mental Marky Mark. But one thing that I know about you is that you have always dreamed, since we were at school, of being a radio DJ. Is this true?
It is true. It is true. And one of the best moments is I'm not very proactive like you. You wanted to do something. You set up a business. That's great. I always wanted to be a radio DJ. But this is, I mean, to people out there, Martin sends you a microphone, a really cool microphone set up so you can sound good on this podcast. And it's probably the best thing I've got in the post in years. So, yeah, it's true, mate. I always wanted to do it. I did do some hospital radio as well.
That is exactly what we are going to be talking about. Your rock and roll life as a hospital DJ. But just going back to the radio DJ thing. So when Mental Marky Mark said this at school, now we grew up quite close to London, and I think everyone's dream pretty much was get a job in London, and that was about it. And if anyone said anything different, it was like, what an idiot. So when Mental Marky Mark said, I want to be a radio DJ, all of us were just like, you are a dreamer. But I actually think fair play. Okay, so fair play, like well done almost. It's great that you even had that idea. So now, like I said, this is probably the best you're ever going to get, okay? No offense, but, you know, it's probably the closest your dream's ever going to come. So we're going to talk about the radio, okay? And a bit about radio DJs. And especially this part, which you just mentioned about being a DJ for a hospital, because you've just got back from America, haven't you? You've been living over there.
Yeah.
Across the pond, as they say. So tell us about that. Was it an old people's home? I imagine that was pretty crazy. So you were just like putting on the tunes, saying like, let's go crazy for lots of old people in hospital. Tell us.
It's weird. So I did it when I was in the UK. I didn't do it in America, although I would have loved to. But it's a charitable initiative.
In the UK?
Yeah, I did it in the UK. I think lots of people thought I'd do more when I had more time in America. But, as you know, my life didn't allow for that. But, so I did it in the UK, North London, for a bit. And essentially, you go around to the obviously, since COVID, there's hospital radio probably suffered quite a bit.
Oh, of all the things for COVID, that's got to be the worst, that hospital radio has suffered.
But but you used to go around and see patients and, especially older patients, you'd make their day and get a request. And it wouldn't be, I wasn't playing the top hits. I wasn't playing drum and bass. You'd just go to some old 80-year-old who's in hospital getting a hip replacement or something, who actually listened to hospital radio because there's TV and everything now. Or they listen to normal radio. But you'd go back and play the requests on the show, whatever, and try and entertain the hospital population.
Okay, but so were you saying like, this is for Mavis, 85 years old, hip replacement? Were you doing things like that? Like talking?
Hey, Deirdre, I know you've got cancer, but here's a rhythm with a dancer. Rhythm with a dancer. No.
Oh, poor Deirdre. I'm sorry, Deirdre, if you're laughing.
She doesn't, and it's not a laughing matter. But, you try and brighten their day, so you probably wouldn't mention the hip replacements and stuff.
It's not funny that someone's got cancer, but hey, Deirdre, I know you've got cancer. This is Rhythm is a Dancer is absolutely brilliant, though. But yeah, on a serious note, that does actually sound like quite a nice thing to do. So
it was nice to give back, yeah.
Oh, stop trying to make out you're such a great person, okay?
You should do it, Martin. You'd be a great hospital radio presenter.
You know what? If any hospitals are listening, I'm up for it, okay? I just want to stress and make very, very clear at this point, because obviously this is a serious matter. We were not laughing at people that have cancer. Instead, we were doing something that happens a lot on this podcast, making light of a serious situation, because there is a lot of horrible stuff in the world, isn't there? Especially in the current day that we are living. It's never ending. But as we say in English, you can either laugh or cry. And the philosophy on this podcast is always to laugh, because as they say, laughter is the best medicine. And I can actually imagine this story being true and Mental Marky Mark actually doing something like that. And on a serious note, I can imagine how he actually brought a lot of joy to people that unfortunately were suffering in hospital. And the way he managed to bring joy, I'm sure, is through his ridiculous, stupid jokes. And I've got no doubt Deirdre, if she exists, had a bloody good laugh at the situation too, because as we said, laughter is the best medicine. But so on other things on the radio, obviously, as you just mentioned, music, and obviously a radio DJ often has to choose the music. So I was just wondering if you still listen to Take That and Atomic Kitten. Now, I don't know if everyone's aware of these bands. I think Take That were quite internationally known, big boy band in the 90s. Generally, young 12-year-old girls liked them, and same as Atomic Kitten, which were a girl band. And Mental Marky Mark, when we were about 16, I went to his house and found these CDs in his room. So I was just wondering if you still listen to those bands.
I think it's important to point out that I lived with two sisters when I was growing up, so a lot of their
You had
CDs.
your own room, though. You had your own room.
So, all right, yeah. We've discussed how perhaps I did want to be a radio presenter. So if I wanted to introduce a song, I'd play all sorts for the listening public. But was I a fan of Atomic Kitten? No, no. Did I go and see Take That? Yes. Yes, I did. And
wow.
And to anyone out there who knows Gary Barlow, he's a talented songwriter. And it was great entertainment, and it's like
not really that big with 16-year-old boys though. Normally, really,
yeah, but 16-year-old boys listening to Snoop and Dre is also a little bit ridiculous, as if they were growing up on the streets of LA rather than the streets of rural Essex.
That valid point, because I did think I was some kind of gangster when I was about that age, and very much, like you said, thought I was growing up in like the hood in LA, but as you said, in rural Essex was quite a different vibe. But yeah, I can just imagine you playing music and pretending to be a radio DJ on your own in your room, saying, "This one's for Gary Barlow."
Stitch up.
Exactly. Something actually I thought about recently when I was actually in the UK. I thought about this. When you're in your car connected to the radio, when you're in your car and you're about to get out and then a great song comes on the radio, is there anything more annoying than that in the world? Like, what do? Do you get out, or do you stay and listen to the song? Do you stay and listen to the Take That song? What do you do?
You stay in. Of course you stay in. Depends if you've got a really important meeting or anything, but if there's a great track on,
you have to stay.
Yeah, and get it listened to. Because music's great. It's good for the soul. Like, oh no, you're going to make fun of me now.
Stop trying to be like a philosopher. You've already said how much of a great... All of these quotes where you said, yeah, giving back is good. Music is good for the soul. Like, who do you think you are, mental Marky Mark?
All right. All I'm saying is, enjoy the song.
Enjoy the song. Great advice there. Like I said, this happened to me when I was in England, because my car in Italy doesn't actually have a radio. Haven't actually moved that far with technology. I've been meaning to put a radio in it since I bought the car, which was in 2018, but just never got round to it. Too many things to do. So no radio for me. But sometimes I bring a little speaker just to put in there and connect it to my phone. So same thing. So another good thing about the radio is telling stories, because sometimes you're listening to the radio, they tell some great stories. And so obviously that's what we do here. So one of the stories I just wanted to clarify with you, mental Marky Mark, is the time, do you remember when, well, because like I said, we're on the radio here, so telling a story, when the Hellraiser hit you with an egg and you fell to the floor, and mental Marky Mark thought he had been hit with a glass bottle, okay?
Henry...
And insisted on calling an ambulance because he thought he was bleeding, but it was actually just the egg.
That is a highly exaggerated, tall story.
The getting hit by the egg and falling to the floor thinking you had been hit by a bottle is all true, though, isn't it?
Henry is an unpredictable person. People know the Hellraiser is unpredictable. And that night in the taxi, as soon as we got out, I didn't know what was going to happen. And I just got smashed over the head. I had warm liquid running down the side of my face. It was dark. I thought maybe I'd annoyed Hillary. Maybe he still had a bottle of Reef in his hand and had smashed it over my head.
Sure, because that's just the thing just jokingly friends do, just smash glass bottles over each other's heads. But yeah, a bottle of Reef, I'm not sure if that's still around. It was a popular alcoholic drink, again around 2002. But the calling an ambulance, well, obviously that was the exaggerated part. But imagine that though, calling the ambulance and they say, "Hello, what's the problem?" And say, "Yes, my friend has just been hit over the head very aggressively with an egg. Can you come and save him?"
Been egged. Been egged.
Been egged, exactly. So other things for the radio is that you can dance along to the songs, okay? And I know that you are quite a dancer yourself, aren't you, mental Marky Mark? Do you still practice your dance routines in your bedroom?
Okay, so I don't have any dance routines. I never practiced them in my bedroom. I may have really enjoyed a dance in a nightclub, but...
Yeah, I thought, though, it was like, because mental Marky Mark, as he mentioned, grew up with two sisters, so I thought it was like the three of you were like, I think it was, what was the band, like Steps, where there was like boys and girls. I thought you were like planning to be the next big thing.
I mean, I know you want me to be that weird and that to, maybe we were dressed in lycra and practicing routines at home, but it's not true. It's not true.
Well, I mean, again, another story is of when we were in a nightclub and mental Marky Mark, there was the podium, which is where the dancers dance, and there must have been 2,000 people in this nightclub. And then all of a sudden I looked to where the podium was, and mental Marky Mark was in the podium and dancing. And again, I actually thought, wow, that is pretty impressive. He's dancing. The whole nightclub is looking at him. Okay, then you started doing your Spice Girls dance routine, like, stop right now, thank you very much. It went a little bit downhill then, but otherwise, again, I was actually quite jealous of you for about 3 seconds. I thought, wow, that's pretty good.
Then you're muscled out by some bouncers, and it's all a bit untidy, and you regret climbing onto the podium. So leave it to the professionals.
Yeah, but that again was actually a pretty good thing, and again shows how mental Marky Mark, different from the rest, will take the risks in life. Okay, wants to be a radio DJ and a dancer in a nightclub, but like you said, the bouncers. So the bouncers are like the security people. Quickly put a stop to that. And so something else of the radio, something great about it, is you can win stuff. Like you enter competitions and stuff like that. Now, I always thought when I was a child, they said, oh, you can win this, like phone this number. I remember thinking, what idiot would ever phone that? And then talking to you, and to be fair, you actually won quite a lot of shit on the radio, didn't you?
I was that idiot, and I was it, but I don't know. It came good. I think 3 times, and include the best one was when I won a barbecue and outside like patio gas heater.
Just what? How old were you? Probably 15.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that would be great now, 37 years old kind of thing, to win like a very big outdoor barbecue and everything like that. But yeah, for a 15-year-old boy, but still a great win nonetheless.
That was from Dr. Fox. He's not a doctor.
I mean, I don't even know what Dr. Fox is. Speaking of this, actually, radio in general, I've never been a fan, just because there's too much shit you have to listen to. I'm just go for a CD, or these days playlist. The radio is just that you get like adverts about Windows and just loads of shit, and then people telling you about the news. But all that being said, when an absolute rhythm comes on the radio, there is nothing like it, because it's unexpected. If you put a song on, you're expecting it, but when it just like bam comes out on the radio, there's nothing quite like it.
It's great. Yeah, that's what it's good for. But I agree with you, the adverts and stuff are spoiling it. So yeah, I'm out for that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right now, Spotify and everything like that is the go-to.
Yeah, exactly. But it does take away the surprise element. So yeah, good and bad points.
But if you get a good presenter, they make all the difference. If mental Marky Mark was on your airwaves, you'd tune in. That's what they're there for.
Even just the way your voice is moving there, everyone can see you have practiced this yourself at least a million times before. So if any, radios are listening and they need a new presenter, mental Marky Mark is your man. And so about the radios, obviously they present local news. I can imagine you doing that pretty well, making local news sound pretty rock and roll.
A man has been egged tonight on his head in a dark street in Chelmsford. They're looking for a skinny, weedy chap called Hellraiser. A hooligan.
Exactly. So some lovely vocabulary there as well. Skinny, I think we know, but weedy, very similar to skinny. Someone that is basically not strong. Did you notice Mental Marky Mark's girly laugh there? How much I have missed that laugh since he has been in America, let me tell you. Anyway, that's where the conversation got cut off, so we continue it in tomorrow's family podcast, where Mental Marky Mark also tells us a bit more about himself, how he has been flying helicopters in the British RAF, and about his life in America. But now, let's get to the RnR Vocab. In the introduction today, we had two pieces of vocab when I said I don't want things to go stale. So, to not become fresh, remember, often used for food. And I said I roped my friend into doing this. So, you persuade someone to do something they don't want to do. That wasn't really the case here, but it's also a funny term to use when you get someone to do something for you. I've roped him into doing this. Then Mental Marky Mark said he had been putting off coming on the podcast for a long time. So when you put something off, you delay it. We had the term stitch up. So when you stitch someone up, or it can be a noun, stitch up, it's kind of when you manipulate the situation for your advantage, which is kind of what I did today because I had all of the stories. I knew what was happening. Mental Marky Mark didn't know anything. So you could say I stitched him up, or it was a stitch up. We had the term witty when we were talking about email addresses. So witty is something that's funny but intelligent, often used with a play of words like hotter mail at Hotmail. Remember, male is in female, male, hotter male. Hilarious, witty. And then I said that Mental Marky Mark beat me to it, to that email address. So when you beat someone to it, you get there first, let's say. You do it first. He also described the review as a punchy review. So a punchy review is a review that is short and makes an immediate impact. If something is punchy, it's short and makes an immediate impact, often used for words, obviously. I also said to Mental Marky Mark, fair play for even saying you wanted to be a DJ. So when you say fair play, it's like saying, you know, I respect you. That's good. Because when we were in school, I made fun of him a lot for saying he wanted to be a DJ. Now I feel bad about that because I think everyone should be entitled to do what they want and not be forced to get some job that they don't want to do just because that's what society wants you to do. We also mentioned the term across the pond when I said he had been living across the pond. That's what we use for England and America, because just between England and America there is water. So we call it a pond, which normally means a small lake, but obviously it's kind of like sarcastic because it's more than a small lake between England and America, but never mind. I also said to Mental Marky Mark, stop trying to make out you're such a great person. So stop trying to pretend you're such a great person. We had as well, I've been meaning to put a radio in my car since 2018. We had this in a family podcast recently when you say, I've been meaning to do that. It's something that I have wanted to do for a long time, but I have not done yet. We also mentioned how things went a bit downhill when Mental Marky Mark started his dance routine whilst on the podium. And he mentioned how the bouncers quickly put a stop to it. So two nice words there. The bouncers are the security people at nightclubs, the big ugly men that say, have you got any documents, any ID, and all of that. And a nice term as well, to put a stop to something, basically to make it stop. I also used the term, a nice, let's say, connecting phrase when I was saying I don't really like the radio that much, but then I contrasted what I was saying and said, but all that being said, when a great song comes on, there's nothing like it. So that's a great way to basically contrast what you have just said. And the last thing is when Mental Marky Mark said Spotify is the go-to. So the best place to go to find music, basically. It's the go-to thing, the thing everyone immediately goes to for that specific need of listening to music. Anyway, remember, all of the vocabulary is on the website rockandrollenglish.com/episode 257. I hope you enjoyed it. I will speak to you all again very soon. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.